Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Prapta Sakalyana Gurnanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanma Diramajanadu Shri Vigrahara Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Kridvaiva Tripti Bhajata Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shiradhikama Davayorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Shiradhikama Davayorapara Pratikshana Dhanalopasa Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Ne kunja yuno ratikali siddhai jayali bhir yuktir apekshaniya. Ne kunja yuno ratikali siddhai jayali bhir yuktir apekshaniya. Tatrati daksha ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Tatrati Daksha Sakcha Dharitena Shamasta Shashe Rukta Tathava Vyata Eva Sadhvi. Sakcha Dharitena Kintu pravarja priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Yasya prasada Bhagavat prasada Yasya prasada Nagati kutapi. Yasya prasada Yasya prasada Dhyayam stuvam tasa Yasatrin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Dhyayam stuvam tasa Yasatrin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachata Deshatarine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hariyaraye Nama Krishna, Jadavaye Nama Diya, Jadavaye Madhavaya, Keshavaya Nama, Gopal Govindaram, Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopina, Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda, Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava, Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan, Bhattaraguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakraya, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Go, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Ramanande, Haribo. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhupada Acharya Suttara Shri Shishya Maharaj Divine Grace, Abhachara Vinna Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON प्रतिष्ठा विधि संस्थापक आचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन श्रील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौर्य गुरु वर्ग पतित उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तनिक जनक Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandan Shman Gauranga Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaura Hari Mahavrana Avatar ki jai. Golokera Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Jaga ki jai. Yoga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Brihat Midanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopna Radha Kund Samakund Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Shri Brajabhum Vrindavan Maturdam ki jai. The Lordship Shri Shri Radha Nilamadhava ki jai. Shri Shri Maya Purnavadip Ekachakradam ki jai. Parama Karuna Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Shri Purushottama Kitra Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smas Vadradev Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan ki jai. Sri Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman ji ki jai. Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashana Kanushingare Bhagavan ki jai. Jaganga Maya Jamuna Maya ki jai. Tulsi Maharani Vrindi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Maturadharani ki jai. Shamaveta Bhakta Vindi ki jai. Nitai Gaurari Pramanande. All glory to the Assembly bodies. All glory to the Assembly bodies. All glory to the Assembly bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories. Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Gurahi.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Pralada Lada Dayine.
Pralada Dayine.
Hiranyakashipur Vakshaha.
Hiranyakashipu Vakshaha.
Shilatankana Kalaye.
Silatankana Kalaye.
Eto Narsimha Parato Narsimha.
Eto Nisingha Parato Nisingha.
Yato Yato Yamitato Narsimha.
Jata Jata Jamitato Nisingha.
Bahir Narsimha Hridaya Narsimha.
Bahir Nisingha Hridaya Nisingha.
Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade.
Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade.
Tavakara Kamalavare Nakham Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare.
Abakara Kamala Bare Nakam Adabhuta Dalita Hiranyakashipu Danavinga Kesavadita Naravirupa Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare.
Jaya Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare
Jaya Kesavadeta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare
Jaya Narsimhadev 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 Jaya Narsimhadev
Jaya Nishingare Jaya Nishingare Jaya Nishingare Jaya Nishingare
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Gurudev
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Bhakti Vigna Vinashak Lakshmi Narasimhadev Bhagavan Ki
Jai
Bhakti Shromani Prahlad Maharaj Ki
Jai
Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda Ki
Jai Jai. Happy birthday. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi Ki Jai. Gotta move mask.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Radha Krishna Seva Pabo Ye Abhilashi
Radha Krishna Seva Pava Eya Vilasi
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Etumara saranaloy Tara vancha purna hoy
Tumara saranana Taravancha Purna
Kripa kori koro tare Vrindavanavasi
Tumi kripa kari karo tare Vrindavanavasi
Moraye abhilash Vilas kunje diova
Morae Avila Vilas Kunja Diyama
Nayane heribo sada Yugalaru parasi
Aminayane Riva Sada Jugalaruparasi
E nivedana dharo sakiranu-gata koro
Nivedana Dhara Sakiranugata Koro
Sevadikara diye koro nija dasi
Sevayade Koro Diye Koro Nijadasi
Dina Krishna dase koi ye jena mora hoy
Na Krishna Das Koi Eye Namora
Sri Radha Govinda preme sada yena basi
Shri Radha Govinda Prema Sadaye Navasi
Dina Krishna dase koi ye jena mora hoy
Na Krishna Das Koi Eye Namora
Sri Radha Govinda preme sada yena basi
Shri Radha Govinda Prema Sadaye Navasi
Yani kani cha papani brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani pranasyanti pradakshina pade pade
Jani Kani Sapa Pane Brahmachari Kani Sa Tani Tani Prana Santi Parachina Pade Pade
Yani kani cha papani brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani pranasyanti pradakshina pade pade
Jani Kani Sapa Pane Brahmachari Kani Sa Tani Tani Prana Santi Parachina Pade Pade
Yani kani cha papani brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani pranasyanti pradakshina pade pade
Yani Kani Sapa Pane Brahmachari Kani Sa Tani Tani Prana Santi Parachina Pade Pade
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision I would always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavadhyam of Raj. It is given the privilege of devotional service and make me your own servant. This very form of holy sacred Krishna praise. May I always love Shri Radha Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sri Krishna Ki Jai. Kavitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pradipadam Purnam Nitaswadanam Sarvatmasnam Param Param Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita niyamita smarane nakala. Ita drisitava kripaya bhagavan mamapi. Durdhaiva midrishamya janina nuraga. Trinarapi sunichena tarorapi saishnana. Amani namanadena kirtaniya sadahari. Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagarisha kamaye. Mama janmane janmaneshwari bhavata bhaktirahaitu kitvayi. Oinam kinkaram paritamam visame bhavam buddho. Kripaya tava pada pankajastita dule sadrisham vichintaya. Nayanam galorashudharaya vadanam gadugadarudaya gira. Pulakairinchitam papukada tavanam agrahane bhavishyati. Jugaitam nimeshena chakusha prarusaitam shunya itam jagata sarvam govinda virahena me asli shava padaratam pinastamam adarshnar marmatam karatuva jatatata vidadatulam pato matpranatastu saivana para. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam ki jai. Namo Vrindaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Muni Guru Tushe. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large. God is expressly raised the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a Lord on a stony street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your costly devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, some or other I'm falling this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, and will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? And will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on end with the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering one moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world and in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if sunders me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, but he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri 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 Kastakam Ki Jai. So, there are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, the Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. Consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activity karma kanda. 9. to instruct the fearless person by the glories of holy name. And 10. Do not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prem. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just our desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswati Devi Jai Shri Krishna Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, verse number 1. Shri Sukha Uvacha Atmamayam Rite Rajan Parasyanu Pavatmana Sagate Tarta Sambandha Swapna Drastur Ivanjasa. Shri Sukha Uvacha. Shri Sukadeva Goswami said, Atma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mayam, energy, Rite, without, Rajan, O King, Parasya, of the pure soul, Anubhava Atmana, of the purely conscious, Na, never, Gatita, it can so happen, Artha, meaning, Sambandha, relation with the material body, Swapna, dream, Drastu, of the seer, Iva, like, Anjasa, completely. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O King, unless one is influenced by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no meaning to the relationship of the pure soul in pure consciousness with the material body. That relationship is just like a dreamer's seeing his own body working. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Pariksit questioned as to how a living entity began his material life, although he is apart from the material body and mind. It is perfectly answered. The spirit soul is distinct from the material conception of his life, but he is absorbed in such a material conception because of being influenced by the external energy of the Lord called Atma Maya. This has already been explained in the first canto in connection with Vyasa Deva's revelation of the Supreme Lord and his external energy. The external energy is controlled by the Lord, and the living entities are controlled by the external energy, by the will of the Lord. Therefore, although the living entity is purely conscious in his pure state, he is subordinate to the will of the Lord in being influenced by the external energy of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:15 also, the same thing is confirmed. The Lord is present within the heart of every living entity, and all the living entities' consciousness and forgetfulness are influenced by the Lord. Now the next question automatically made will be why the Lord influences the living entity to such consciousness and forgetfulness. The answer is that the Lord clearly wishes that every living entity be in his pure consciousness as a part and parcel of the Lord, thus be engaged in the loving service of the Lord as he is constitutionally made. But because the living entity is partially independent also, he may not be willing to serve the Lord, but may try to become as independent as the Lord is. All the non-devotee living entities are desirous of becoming equally as powerful as the Lord, although they are not fit to become so. The living entities are illusioned by the will of the Lord because they wanted to become like him, like a person who thinks of becoming a king without possessing the necessary qualification. When the living entity desires to become the Lord himself, he is put in a condition of dreaming that he is a king. Therefore, the first sinful will of the living entity is to become the Lord, and the consequent will of the Lord is that the living entity forgets his factual life and thus dream of the land of utopia where he may become one like the Lord. The child cries to have the moon from the mother, and the mother gives the child a mirror to satisfy the crying and disturbing child with the reflection of the moon. Similarly, the crying child of the Lord, meaning the jiva, is given over to the reflection, the material world, to lord it over as karmi, and to give this up in frustration to become one with the Lord. Both these stages are dreaming illusions only. There is no necessity of tracing out the history of when the living entity desired this, but the fact is that as soon as he desired it, he was put under the control of Atma Maya by the direction of the Lord. Therefore, the living entity in his material condition is dreaming falsely that this is mind and this is I. The dream is that the conditioned soul thinks of his material body as I, or falsely thinks that he is the Lord and that everything in connection with the material body is mine. Thus, only in dream does the misconception of I and mine persist life after life. This continues life after life as long as the living entity is not purely conscious of his identity as the subordinate part and parcel of the Lord. In his pure consciousness, however, there is no such misconceived dream, and in that pure conscious state, the living entity does not forget that he is never the Lord, but that he is eternally the servitor of the Lord in transcendental love. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, unless one is influenced by the energy of the Supreme Personality Godhead, there is no meaning to the relationship of the pure soul in pure consciousness with the material body. That relationship is just like a dreamer seeing his own body working. So, from the beginning of Canto 2, Chapter 8, Maharaj Pariksit asked many questions to Sukadeva Goswami. And then Sukadeva Goswami said, okay, I'm going to answer your questions now. And but not in the order that you may have presented them, but in a sequence that was used by the original acharyas. So the first question that he's going to answer, now this is not in the sequence that Sukadeva Goswami, that Maharaj Pariksit asked the questions, but this is the sequence that the previous acharyas have used, and the previous acharyas to Sukadeva Goswami are Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, Brahma, and ultimately Krishna. Okay. So the first question is, how did the living entity begin his material life? Although he is apart from the material body and mind. And it says that this first verse perfectly answers it. So let's read the first verse again. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, unless one is influenced by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no meaning to the relationship of the pure soul and pure consciousness with the material body. That relationship is just like a dreamer seeing his own body work. So the dreamer seeing his own body work is a state of illusion. It's a dreaming state. And if a person lacks knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then they have no means of understanding the relationship of their pure soul to Krishna and to the material body and material nature. They can't understand it properly. And therefore, in the second canto, 8th chapter, verse 4, Sukadeva Goswami, right in the beginning of the 8th chapter, he says, persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, manifested in their hearts within a short time. So, this hearing regularly, meaning every day, and not only once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, one should attend class and hear very seriously the science of Krishna. Who is this Krishna, and what is our relationship with him, and what is the relationship to the material body and the material nature, and all these things. So the first question is, how the living entity began his material life, although he is apart from the material body and mind. So, Prabhupada says, the spirit soul is distinct from the material conception of his life. So, this material conception of his life is something artificial that the living entity, you and me, and every one of us are criminals. Every one of us is a criminal. We voluntarily walked away from Krishna. That's why we have a material body covering our soul. And we're in the material world basically trying to enjoy sense gratification with money and gadgets and people and this and that. So, none of us are pure devotees. We are all contaminated. But we have a chance now, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, to throw off all that contamination. But it is very difficult to do. Very, very difficult. Almost impossible. But if we very closely stick to the instructions of the acharyas and the Siksha and Diksha gurus, then we have a possibility to do it. But it's not going to be easy, and it's going to take a long time. It depends on how much we are affected by the dream of material sense gratification. So it says, the spirit soul is distinct from the material conception of his life, but he is absorbed in such a material conception because of being influenced by the external energy of the Lord, called Atma Maya. So this external energy of the Lord, what is it? It is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Things that we really don't have to do. Our soul doesn't have to do any of those things. But we're convinced that we must do those things. So in order to have eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, we want to have money, and we want to have shelter, and we want to have a partner. So a partner in crime, basically. And what is the crime? It's sense gratification and forgetfulness of Krishna. That's the ultimate crime. So the spirit soul is distinct from the material conception of his life, but he is absorbed in such a material conception because of being influenced by the external energy of the Lord called Atma Maya. This has already been explained in the first canto in connection with Vyasadeva's realization of the Supreme Lord and his external energy. So that is the first canto, 7th chapter, verse number 4 and 5, which is a very exhaustive explanation of how the living entity becomes entrapped in the material world. And I'm not going to read all of it, but we'll come to that in a minute. We'll come back to that. This has already been explained in the first canto in connection with Vyasadeva's realization of the Supreme Lord and his external energy. The external energy is controlled by the Lord, and the living entities are controlled by the external energy, by the will of the Lord. Therefore, although the living entity is purely conscious in his pure state, he is subordinate to the will of the Lord in being influenced by the external energy of the Lord. In the why does it say subordinate? Well, because in the liberated state, the living entity is in many ways equal to the Lord. Well, they're equal because they're both eternal, right? You can't take that away from the living entity. So in that way, they're equal, and they're also equal. I mean, we as pure spirit soul, not contaminated spirit soul, but pure spirit soul, we're equal in eternity. But we're not completely equal in knowledge or bliss, because Krishna is always expanding his knowledge and bliss. So we're huffing and puffing, trying to stay up to it, but we'll never be equal to it. So in some ways, we are completely equal to Krishna. In other ways, we share the knowledge that Krishna has and the bliss that Krishna has. But even in that split moment of sharing, Krishna's knowledge and bliss increases. So we can never really achieve total equality in that sense. But as far as eternity goes, there's total equality. Okay? So, therefore it says, the external energy is controlled by the Lord, and the living entities are controlled by the external energy by the will of the Lord. Therefore, although the living entity is purely conscious in his pure state, he is subordinate to the will of the Lord in being influenced by the external energy of the Lord. So we cannot imitate the Lord. Basically, that's what that says. We cannot imitate him and be completely independent. We're always dependent on the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, also the same thing is confirmed. The Lord is present within the heart of every living entity, and all the living entities' consciousness and forgetfulness are influenced by the Lord. So, we can never be independent. That's the point. We are dependent on the Lord always, either in the liberated stage or in the conditioned stage. Now the next question, okay, now he answered the first question, but now to get a more complete answer, we go to Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse number 4 and 5. I'm not going to read everything here, but I'm going to just read some of it. So, first of all, it says, so Vyasadeva is going to instruct Narada Muni is going to instruct Vyasadeva, right? So it says that Srila Vyasadeva in his own ashrama, which was surrounded by berry trees, you say berry trees, right? Fruit trees, sat down to meditate after touching water for purification. Okay, now he's meditating. So then it says, Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranhite Male Apasyat Purusham Purnam Mayam Chatad Apasrayam. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism, And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, meaning Maya, which was under full control. So Maya is behind, or sort of in the shadow of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So he sees, Vyasadeva in his meditation, he sees Krishna and he sees Maya, but Maya is behind him and subordinate to him. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, perfect vision of the Absolute Truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, Bhakti-hamam abhijananti and so forth. We've gone over those verses previously. One can perfectly realize the Absolute Truth, personality of Godhead, only by the process of devotional service, and one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. Imperfect realization of the Absolute by the partial approach of the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of God. Sri Narada advised Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of Godhead, as it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:19. So everybody is meditating on the light, they're nonsense. And almost everybody is meditating or trying to meditate on the light. So one time, long time ago, when I was doing Sankirtan every day in Paris, one day we were at some mystical bookstore doing kirtan outside the store, and a big limousine pulled up right in front of the store and parked, and the driver got out. He was dressed, impeccably in suit and tie, and he came up to me and stopped and asked me a question. I stopped chanting for a second, and he said, someone in the car wants to talk to you. I said, what? He said, someone in the car wants to talk to you. Can you please come? Just for a minute, come and talk to him. So I told the others to keep chanting. So I walked with him over to the car. It was very, very close to us. And the back window goes down, and an older gentleman sitting inside. And he had a little bit of an accent also. And he said, I want you to come to my mansion. I said, what? I don't even know who you are. Who are you exactly? So he told me his name. He said, I want you to come to my mansion. And the driver here, this is my son. He's a dentist. And so when can you come? I said, well, I can't come right now. I said, we're doing Sankirtan, chanting. He said, how about tonight? I said, okay, I can come tonight. But how am I going to get there? He said, my son will pick you up in this limousine and bring you. I said, okay. I'll try anything once, right? If there can be some Krishna consciousness involved with it. So, now this is a true story. Now I'm not making any of it up. See, this is what happens when you're doing Sankirtan every day. We were doing up to 16 hours a day. We wouldn't even go back to the temple for lunch. They'd bring the lunch to us, and we would eat in the subway. There would be like 10, 15 devotees sitting down on the benches in the subway. People would come by in the train. Oh, look at us like this. What's going on here? There'd be plates, and there'd be big, pots, and everybody'd be eating, and we would all wave to them and smile and say, chant Hare Krishna. They'd look at us like they couldn't believe it. Anyway, that night, I think it was around 7 o'clock, the limousine came, and I got in. Now he drives, and it was a long drive. It was at least an hour to get to where we were going. And when we get there, it's a gigantic mansion, all lit up with lights. It looked like a temple. So obviously this man was very rich, very, very wealthy guy. So I go in, and it's a beautiful house, and they make me sit in their banquet hall. And it's a banquet hall. It's big, right? Big table, and all one whole wall was all china dishes and all kinds of paraphernalia, and there was candlelight, and there were lights, and it was like, it looked like Louis XIV's dining hall, right? So I'm sitting there, and his son said, please wait a few minutes. My father will come down. So he leaves. So I'm alone in the dining hall, and I'm trying to think, where is this all going to lead? What's this all going to lead to? And maybe I shouldn't have come, because it's far away. It's an hour away. So eventually the old gentleman comes in, and I could tell he was a Jewish guy, and he had a little bit of an accent. Maybe he came from Poland or one of those Eastern European countries. And he started speaking, talking some kind of nonsense about meditation, the light, and guru, and all that stuff. So he had some knowledge, and he didn't sit down. He started walking, sort of around me, but he couldn't walk completely around. So he'd walk to one side and talk to me. Then he'd walk around and kept talking to the other side, and then he'd look at me and talk to me. And he did this about 2-3 times, talking about how to see the light. So then I realized I shouldn't have come. And this guy's completely crazy, right? And I was thinking, how am I going to get out of this? And so I thought he was going to sit down and discuss Krishna consciousness or philosophy, right? He's not. He's giving his own philosophy, which is all Mayavad nonsense. And suddenly, when he kept walking back and forth. Then all of a sudden, he stayed right behind me for about 3-4 minutes, and that's got me a little bit worried, And all of a sudden, I felt his hand come around, grab my so-called third eye, squeezed it really hard, and said, "Do you see the light? Do you see the light? Do you see the light?" I said, "Yes, I see the light." And then they let go. I'm not kidding. This actually happened. And then he said, "Now you are my disciple. I have just initiated." I said, "Well, thank you very much." I said, now I can see the light, and I'm going to have to go because I have to wake up early tomorrow. I said, no, you can stay here tonight. No, I said, I can't stay here. I have to go. Please call your son. So, but one good thing came out of it. His son was a dentist, and he was a really high-class dentist, a big dental place on the Champs-Elysees, which is a very expensive place. So I made an appointment with him. When we were going back, we started talking about my teeth and his teeth and things like that. So I made an appointment with him to give me a checkup, right? So that was the only positive thing of the whole thing. His father's initiation, it didn't mean nothing, anything, right? It was all nonsense, right? And then I made a decision never to see them again, right? I just saw the son one time, and then that was it. I didn't go back. Although he kept inviting me, but it was a waste of time. Okay, so the seeing the light, it's a waste of time, you see. So all these yoga, offices and yoga centers and meditation and blah, 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 it's all a waste of time. It's nonsense. And you don't even come close to Krishna by doing it. Okay, and all the, gymnastic yoga, it's all a waste of time. So it says here, one can perfectly realize the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, only by the process of devotional service. And one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. Imperfect realization of the absolute truth by the partial approach of the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of God, meaning Vaikuntha or Goloka. Sri Narada advised Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of Godhead, and it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. In the Upanishads also it is confirmed that Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, is covered by the golden glowing Hiranmayana Patrena. So that's from Ishopanishad Mantra 15. The Hiranmayana Patrena veil of impersonal Brahman. And when that curtain is removed by the mercy of the Lord, the real face of the Absolute is seen. The Absolute is mentioned here as Purusha or person. The Absolute Personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literatures, and in the Bhagavad Gita, the Purusha is confirmed as the eternal and original person. The absolute personality Godhead is the perfect person. The supreme person has manifold energies, out of which the internal, external, and marginal energies are specifically important. The energy mentioned here is the external energy, as will be clear from the statements of her activities. The internal energy is there along with the absolute person, as the moonlight is there with the moon. The external energy is compared to darkness because it keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The word apastrayam suggests that this energy of the Lord is under full control. The internal potency or superior energy is also called Maya, but it is spiritual Maya or spiritual energy exhibited in the absolute realm. When one is under the shelter of this Maya, or when one is under the shelter of this, when one is under the shelter of the internal potency, the darkness of material ignorance is at once dissipated, and even those who are atmarama, or fixed in trance, take shelter of this Maya, meaning Yoga Maya, or internal energy. Devotional service or bhakti yoga is the function of the internal energy. Thus, there is no place for the inferior energy or material energy, just as there is no place for darkness in the effulgence of spiritual light. Such internal energy is even superior to the spiritual bliss attainable in the conception of impersonal Brahman. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the impersonal Brahman effulgence is also an emanation from the absolute personality Godhead Sri Krishna. The Parama Purusha cannot be anyone except Sri Krishna himself, as will be explained in the later slokas. So, here we have a much more comprehensive explanation of what Vyasadeva actually saw when he went into deep meditation. But he was instructed by Narada not to waste his time on the Brahma Jyoti and not to be, and go past even the Paramatma directly to Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead. Okay. So it says here, now the next question automatically made will be why the Lord influences the living entity to such consciousness and forgetfulness. So this is question 2. So this is going to be a systematic sequence now, as the acharyas, previous acharyas, have presented the subject matter. The answer is that the Lord clearly wishes that every living entity be in his pure consciousness as part and parcel of the Lord, and thus be engaged in the loving service of the Lord as he is constitutionally made. But because the living entity is partially independent also, he may not be willing to serve the Lord, but may try to become as independent as the Lord is. All the non-devotee living entities are desirous of becoming equally as powerful as the Lord, although they are not fit to become so. So this is our position today. We're trying to be as powerful as the Lord, or independent as the Lord, to be a controller, an Ishwara. And if we can't control the whole material energy, at least we want to control part of it, like in our home, or in our business, or our friends, or whatever. So it says here, all the non-devotee living entities are desirous of becoming equally as powerful as the Lord, although they are not fit to become so. The living entities are illusioned by the will of the Lord because they wanted to become like him. Like a person who thinks of becoming a king without possessing the necessary qualification. When a living entity desires to become the Lord himself, he is put in a condition of dreaming that he is a king. Therefore, the first sinful will of the living entity is to become the Lord, and the consequent will of the Lord is that the living entity forget his factual life and thus dream of the land of utopia, where he may become one like the Lord. Okay, so this is a description of our state of illusion right now. Every one of us is like this. This is a perfect description. And not only we're in illusion, but everybody else is in illusion also. almost everyone in the material world is subject to this illusory state of dreaming that we will become Jeff Bezos one day. Well, that's a lot less than the Lord, but for many people, that is the Lord, right? To have so much money or power. So all the dictators, all the movie stars, all the rappers, all the scientists, all the philosophers, all the politicians, they're all dreaming that I'm going to become number one. And so it all starts with, and it's all based on sex desire. There are three concomitant factors of sex desire. That is profit, and distinction and adoration. Profit, distinction, and adoration. Those are three concomitant factors of sex desire. As soon as one develops sex desire, they want some profit, have money. And we can see all these big millionaires, they exploit innocent women, sometimes children, with their money and power, and take advantage of them and use them and then abuse them. This is going on every day. You can read it in the newspaper almost every day. Right? And then profit, distinction. So they need nice clothes, very expensive clothes, and jewelry, and watches, and cars, and houses, right? Jeff Bezos, I don't know how many houses he has. Must have around 10 houses, and they're all really big, and they're all really expensive, and they're all different places of the world. And they have houses, and then he's building the biggest yacht in the world right now for himself, right? And it's going to be like Les Tuileries that I spoke about yesterday, not the Tuileries, Les Invalides, the invalids hospital that he built. And Prabhupada said, "Oh, the hospital is very nice. The hospital is here. Where is he? He's not there. He's dead." He built something to look like it'll last forever, but he's not. He can't last forever. See, so the hospital's there. He's not there. So that's what's going to happen to everybody. It's very funny. Today in the news, it's Elon Musk is saying that his SpaceX program might go bankrupt. Why is that? Because this COVID is coming back, and if it comes back big time, as it has in many places already, but if it happens in the United States, he's going to have a problem. It's happening in China also. There's already a problem with the supply chain, right? But then there could be a major problem if a lot of people get sick, that all the little Chinese boys and girls and people working day and night for him are not going to be able to supply him with all his parts, right? So how is he going to maintain a SpaceX? Whenever you have all this very advanced equipment, whether it's military equipment or space equipment, you have to always have those parts, and if you're missing one or two parts, it could stop the whole project, right? So the supply chain has to be very, very functional. So that could cause him to go bankrupt with such a delicate, being so needy of so many parts. How many parts go into making the spaceship? Probably 100,000, right? So you see, the devas don't have this problem. The devas fly around on birds. Well, of course, but they don't. The birds don't need a supply chain. All they do is need some food, right? Basically grass. So Brahma flies around in a big swan. Lord Shiva goes around in a big bull. Ganga goes around on a crocodile. I don't know if the crocodile flies through space, but she navigates the Ganges on the crocodile. So we see the devas have these, or else the mystic yogis, they just travel on the air or on light. So they all have different means of propelling themselves through space, but they don't rely on a supply chain. But SpaceX, completely relies on the supply chain. And if something happens to it, he can get stuck, and if it lasts for long enough, he goes bankrupt. You see how insecure is material economic development when it's all based on ignoring Krishna and just depending on their own intelligence or their own raw materials. Profit, distinction, and adoration. So once you're dignified by the clothes, the Rolex watches, and the houses, and the cars, and the rockets, and all your servants, and this, like, look in India, you have the Ambani family, right? They live in a skyscraper in Mumbai, and they have, I think, 2,000 servants. You know, and Mumbai is a very expensive place. The Nariyal, what's called Nariyal, Nariman, yeah. It's like the most expensive part of Mumbai, and they have a big skyscraper there. So that costs a lot of money to maintain. Just any skyscraper costs a lot of money to maintain. You go in Seattle and see all the skyscrapers. They're hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And the maintenance is many millions of dollars a year. It could be $6 to $10 million a year just to maintain the building, right? Okay, so to continue here, he says, therefore, the first sinful will of the living entity is to become the Lord, and the consequent will of the Lord is that the living entity forgets his factual life and thus dream of the land of utopia. Utopia is the ideal place. You can look the word up. It's a nice word. Utopia. Utopia. It's an ideal place. It's like heaven. Utopia. What's it say?
An imagined place or state of things in which everything is perfect.
That's it. Right. So you won't find any place like that in the material world, but you can find it in your dream. Right. And thus dream of the land of utopia where he may become one like the Lord. The child cries to have the moon. Anyway, this is a profound statement, and it explains the second question. How is it, or why did the Lord influence the living entity? In other words, it's saying as soon as the living entity develops the desire to become the Lord, which is based on envy, immediately they fall down. And that happened to every one of us, and it's still happening today. It's still happening today because the cause is in the effect. The cause is in the effect. So the effect is every day we forget Krishna and want to become like Krishna or equal to Krishna or better than Krishna by being a controller. So every criminal is a controller, is an Ishwara. They find some victim and beat them up and make them a prisoner and control them and abuse them. So they're trying to be God of one person or God of a whole bunch of people, like a dictator. If Hitler won the Second World War, he would be worshipped as God. They were already worshiping him as God in Germany, but if he won the war, he would have been worshipped by God by everybody that he conquered, or they'd be forced to, otherwise he'd kill them. So similarly, the crying child of the Lord is given over to the reflection of the material world to lord it over the crime. Okay, so this is a profound explanation of how we became entangled in the material world. So then in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7, we just read 174. Now 175 goes even further and says, due to the external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. So if we identify ourselves with the material body and ignore the existence of the soul, whatever happens to the body affects us. Whereas the soul has nothing to do with the body. At no time are we ever this body? We are only a spirit soul, which is eternal. It doesn't have to eat, doesn't have to sleep, doesn't have to reproduce, doesn't have to defend, because it's impossible to kill the soul. But we forget all that and identify with the body that has to eat, sleep, pass stool, and all those different things that we don't have to do as a soul, that we're not forced to do as a soul. The soul is eternal. So this is the real dilemma, and it's almost impossible to get out of this illusory state of mind, because everyone around us is like that also, right? So we think, there was once a man, and he was given some information that on such and such a date, everyone in his village would, all the water in the village would change, and anyone drinking that water would become crazy. So the day came, and he refrained from drinking the water, and everybody else drank it, and they went crazy. And now he was the only one that wasn't crazy. But because he was alone, he finally drank the water so he could join the others. You see, so this is what's happening, just like if you put yourself in a position where you're associated with karmis all the time, or materialists all the time, eventually you'll say, I give up, I'll just join them, because it looks like they're having fun, and they tell me how good meat is, and what a great time they had smoking marijuana and having sex, and I'm feeling a little lonely. Why don't I just join them and give up this heroism of being a unique Hare Krishna amongst all these karmis? Well, a devotee should never take the association of karmis, of materialists. One can maintain work as long as they have a large Krishna conscious community that they can come back to every day and engage in devotional service. But if you're out there, let's say in the boondocks of Alabama or Mississippi or any of these places, in New York or these big cities, and you're not in association with devotees, there's a big chance that you're going to fall down. Big chance. So it's very important to have sadhu sangha on a regular basis. Okay, so it continues. It says, the living entity understands himself to be a material product. This means that the present perverted way of thinking, feeling, and willing under the material conditions is not natural for him. So why does it say thinking, feeling, and willing? Because these are the three psychological steps you have to go through before you act. First of all, you think about something. Oh, it'd be so nice if I could have $1 million in the bank. And then you feel, it feels so good to have so much money. I wouldn't be in anxiety at all. I could buy anything I want. I can go on vacations. I can buy cars. I can buy jewelry. I can buy clothes. I can do whatever I want. I'd be so free and happy. And then you will. I must do this. If I don't do this, I may as well commit suicide. And then you do it. These are the three psychological steps leading to action. So Krishna consciousness acts on this level of the three psychological steps. It acts to what? To stop us from going on to action. So remember what it said, that one advantage of Kali Yuga is that even if you think of sinful activity, you don't get the result. Whereas in previous ages, you would get the result just by thinking of it. You have to actually do it to get the karmic reaction. So, therefore, Krishna consciousness, if you're regularly hearing class every day and participating in it, and asking questions and wanting to know why is this and why is that, and getting proper answers, then you'll be able to act on the level of these three psychological steps and stop them from progressing to action. So, usually you can stop it right from the first thing of contemplating something as an object of sense gratification, right? Or if you miss that, and then you go to the second stage where you he was thinking about how good it would feel to have this. And that's the dream world. You say, well, if I could get a yacht, I could sit and drink what is that called? Pina Cola? I forget the name of that thing. Anyway, you drink a martini on your yacht on a sunny day, surrounded by beautiful people, and have sense gratification in the ocean. See? So you're dreaming. It's all a dream. Like one time, there was a man who was thinking how he could get rich. So the way he could get rich, he was thinking that he could start a sweet business and make sweets made with pure ghee. So he was imagining, how he would milk the cow, and then he'd get his wife to churn the cow milk into butter, and then make the butter into ghee, and then cook the sweets, and then put them up for sale, and everyone would come to him because it was pure ghee, and he would make all this profit every day, and he was counting, how many pounds of ghee he would make and how much he could get for it, and then he would buy, different things with it, like he would buy a nicer house and nice clothing for himself and his wife and his kids, and so forth. He was dreaming like this, and then in the dream, he's putting. He puts the ghee into these clay pots, and he puts the clay pots up a little bit high so no one can touch them, and then in his dream, somebody knocks a pot down and it breaks, and he freaks out, and he wakes up from his dream because it was so powerful, and he's so shocked by it. And what really happened was he knocked down the pot in which the ghee was being made, and his whole dream is shattered, and his profit is also in the beginning. It was like the first or second day of his doing it, and the whole thing, is wasted. So this is what happens when you're dreaming all the time, right? And eventually, because you're dreaming, you don't act responsibly, and then something happens, and then the whole thing is wasted. So this dreaming state, that everybody's in a dreaming state right now. All of us even are in a dreaming state, and fantasizing so many things. So then it says, the Lord does not desire that a living being be illusioned by external energy. The external energy is aware of this fact, but still she accepts a thankless task. It's talking about Maya now, or Durga Mata. The thankless task but still she accepts a thankless task of keeping the forgotten soul under illusion by her bewildering influence. The Lord does not interfere with the task of the illusory energy, because such performances of the illusory energy are also necessary for reformation of the conditioned soul. And then he gives an example. An affectionate father does not like his children to be chastised by another agent or person. Yet, he may put his disobedient children under the custody of a severe man just to bring them to order, just to train them to behave properly. But the all-affectionate Almighty Father at the same time desires relief for the conditioned soul, relief from the clutches of the illusory energy. The king puts the disobedient citizens within the walls of the jail, but sometimes the king, desiring the prisoner's relief, personally goes there and pleads for reformation, and on his doing so, the prisoners are set free. Similarly, the Supreme Lord descends from his kingdom upon the kingdom of illusory energy and personally gives relief in the form of the Bhagavad Gita, wherein he personally suggests that although the ways of the illusory energy are very stiff to overcome, one who surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord is set free by the order of the Lord. This surrendering process is the remedial measure for getting relief from the bewildering ways of the illusory energy. So here, Krishna trains people in two ways. One through Maya, who gives them some success in material desires, and then crushes it, takes it away from them. Just like Bezos said, SpaceX could go belly up, you know. If this COVID gets worse and the Chinese don't work like slaves for me, and the boats are not unloaded in California, my whole supply chain could be ruined, and I will not be able to, maintain all the losses. So you see, even the richest man is in anxiety. You see, that's what the material world is all about. If it's not, he can crush all his competitors, but he can't crush COVID. He can't crush the circumstances that are taking place that could break his whole supply chain, and he would basically go bankrupt over time. So Krishna teaches in two ways. First, he teaches through Durga Mata, who gives some material success and then crushes it. And see, if you didn't have a lot of money, then you wouldn't worry about losing money. But if you'd had no money and then you got a lot of money and then you lose it all, you're devastated. And people commit suicide, just like in 2008 when there was the stock market crash. People were jumping out of windows in New York, the capital of investment companies and what do you call those? The stock companies that people invest in. They are called, hedge funds. All the hedge funds, big hedge funds are there, and all these investment companies are there. And they're all saying, "Give me your money, and I'll make you more money." But many of them are cheaters. They get caught and they go to jail, having stolen all the money of innocent people who thought that they were going to make more money. So it's actually sinful to try and make money without working for it. It's actually sinful. That means you have extra money. So just use it in Krishna's service and just live decently with on a minimalist level, and that way you don't get any karma. Ishavaisham idam sarvam jatkinja jagatyam jagat tena tak tena bunjitaha magritaha kasyasviddanam. So this is the second verse of the Ishopanishad, which says, you have the invocation verse, that's not counted as one, then you have the first verse, and then the second verse. So, Ishavaisham idam sarvam is the first verse, excuse me. The second verse is, Ishavaisham says that Krishna is the owner and controller of everything, and he's set aside for everyone their minimal needs. Accepting the minimal needs and not taking more, you are free from karma. Kurvan eva karma nija jiva chekchitam samha evam twayi nanyatetosi na karma lipyate nare. You can live for thousands of years like that and never incur any karma. Right? So we should believe what the Shastra says, right? Okay, so then it says the surrendering process is due to these two things. One is the punishment that we get for trying to become God, and secondly is Bhagavad Gita spoken by God to teach us how to become free of the whole cycle of birth and death. So the Lord has suggested, therefore, that by the influence of the speeches of saintly persons who have actually realized the Supreme, men are engaged in his transcendental loving service. The conditioned soul gets a taste for hearing about the Lord, and by such hearing only, he is gradually elevated to the platform of respect, devotion, and attachment for the Lord. Respect, devotion, and attachment for the Lord. The whole thing is completed by the surrendering process. Herein also the same suggestion is made by the Lord in his incarnation as Vyasadeva. This means that the conditioned souls are being reclaimed by the Lord both ways, namely by the process of punishment, by the external energy of the Lord, and by himself as the spiritual master within and without. Within, he's Paramatma. Without, he's the bona fide spiritual master. Or he's speaking through the bona fide spiritual master. Within the heart of every living being, the Lord himself, as the supersoul Paramatma, becomes the spiritual master. And from without, he becomes the spiritual master in the shape of scriptures, saints, and the initiator spiritual master. This is still more explicitly explained in the next sloka. Haribol, glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, we'll stop right there. So, the first two of the many, many questions that Sukadeva Goswami asked, Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami are answered here. But we had to go also to the first canto to have a more complete answer. Okay, so are there any questions? Yes.
So Maharaj, in the 1.7.4,
Yeah.
so here the line is mentioned imperfect realization of absolute by partial approach of impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into kingdom of God.
Yes.
So question is,
Okay, so your question is not about the Brahma Jyoti, it's about Paramatma, right? Yeah. So the followers of Patanjali, they are Krishna conscious up to the moment where they see the Paramatma. And at that moment they say, Tattvamasi, I am that, and they merge into Paramatma. So there's two types of merging. You merge into the Brahma Jyoti, or you can merge into the body of Krishna. Both of those stop you from going back to Godhead. We're all going to merge into Mahavishnu at the end of material creation, and then we stay there for a long, long time, and then the next time there's a material creation, we come back again. So merging into the body of the Paramatma does not mean you go back to Vaikuntha. You understand? Yeah. So there's two types of merging. Just like Sisupala was a demon, right? He's killed by Krishna, and everyone saw his soul go into the body of Krishna. Everyone saw it. So he attained this impersonal. There's two types of impersonal merging: Brahma Jyoti or the body of the Lord. So you don't go back to Vaikuntha like that, even though it's the body of the Lord. But you basically go into a deep sleep state until the next creation. Yeah.
A very much related question.
What?
A question related to what Prabhu asked.
Yes.
So when we are there stages in realization? Are there like steps in realization? Like first you realize the Paramatma, then you.
No, they are. That we discussed that in depth yesterday, and I was going to do it some more, but we ran out of time. So if this person listens tomorrow to the class, they will hear.
Okay.
But anyway, you look up the 4th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, verse number 11.
Okay.
4th chapter, verse number 11. Let's see what it says. Make sure I'm not making a mistake. And 1st chapter, number 11. It's 1st chapter, number 10.
Okay.
Adho Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Ta Bhajana Kriya Tato Narta Nivriti Syat Tato Nista Ruchis Tata Atashaktis Tato Bhavas Tata Prema Vya Danchati Sada Kamam Ayam Premna Pradur Bhave Bhavet Krama. That explains the different steps of spiritual. Okay, it's in the purport of 410.
Okay.
But I'm going to explain it even more tomorrow.
Maharaj, one more question. What is means? I didn't understand when you said causes in the effect.
Yeah, because the material world, right, is created by Krishna, right? He expands it. And the material energies, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, fall, there are energies that coming from Krishna. They're his energies. He's controlling them. And everything that's in the material world is a combination of spiritual and material energy, the soul and the body. So the soul is also coming from Krishna. So he is the cause and he's the effect. You see, the effect is the soul covered by a material body and material nature, right? So that's also Krishna, because that's his energy. Just like you see, Amazon is the effect of Bezos. It's his energy,
Yeah.
right? His money, his intelligence, and so forth.
So the soul is the effect and the material body is the cause.
No, soul is the effect, and the material body is the effect, and they're both coming
Cause
from
is
Krishna.
Okay, the cause
Okay.
is Krishna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the original cause why you and I fell down is because we wanted to become Krishna, right? So in the material world, every day we fall down whenever we ignore Krishna consciousness and try and enjoy sense gratification. So the original thing that we did, right, in the spiritual world, we're still doing today. So that's why, again, the cause, the original thing is our desire to become God and being controller and enjoyer. Every day we're doing the same thing whenever we desire sense gratification.
And that's the effect.
So the cause is in the effect,
Cause is in the effect.
right? It's not that we only did it once and we never do it again. We're doing it every day, right? And the same way, Krishna is the cause and the effect. That's why he teaches you how to see in the effect. Rasaham apsakonteya pravasmi sasisuraya. I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and moon. So in the material world, you can see Krishna also. See, you have to be able to recognize it, though. And so he's teaching you how to see him in the material world, because the cause is in the effect. Okay, Haribol. Okay, Haribol.